views, opinions, and advice expressed in this podcast are solely those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and positions of Pattison Media or the sponsors of this program.
Breathe out. 2, 3, 4.
Wellness is.
Women especially are worried about breast cancer or cancer risk, but heart disease is the number one killer. This is what we should be discussing and making sure we understand this is not just a disease of men.
We need more studies to explore why certain individuals, when they're doing the breathing exercises and the meditation and mindfulness to reduce anxiety, it has the opposite effect.
And when I think about the number of people I speak to, oh my gosh, I must have offended an awful lot of people and have no idea. So wouldn't life be better if we could be a little tougher to offend?
Nature is very powerful. We have everything that we need in order to sustain ourselves.
So how about exchanging 15 minutes in the morning and the evening, rather than scrolling on the phone, to do something that not only is going to benefit you in that moment, but will benefit you over the next few days.
Welcome to Everything Lifestyle, your podcast for practical advice about how to attain better physical and mental well-being so that instead of just surviving, you're thriving. Everything Lifestyle is powered by Pattison Media. In this series, we'll share a health journey, explore the trends, and talk to the experts who will help you live your best life. And we'll have fun doing it. In this episode, tackling the number one killer of women, why meditation may not help everyone, and are you easy to offend? We'll tackle offensive language with Stephanie Staples, how a father inspired a daughter, and put down that phone and help yourself. I'm Linda Freeman. Come join the journey of Everything Lifestyle.
How to choose wellness.
It started out like a totally normal day.
Mom! Okay, move objection deadline to the third line after survey.
Oh, honey, for when you always use the verb estar.
What are you doing down there? Did you finish your breakfast?
Ow.
Don't hit your brother. Honey, you have to eat something. Here. Okay, 5 minutes to carpool. Where's my coffee?
9, 1, 1.
Heart disease and stroke is the number one cause of premature death in women in North America. And knowing this, I thought we really need to talk about heart attacks in women. So I've reached out to Dr. Tasha Beinert, a family doctor with a practice on the west coast of Canada. She's a mom, wife, avid runner, and completed her medical degree and then graduated as elected chief resident in family medicine from the University of Calgary here in Canada, obtained a Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Education, and a Master of Arts, and has been a guest on Everything Lifestyle before. So welcome back. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's really nice to be back.
Let's start with just generally talking about heart attacks in women and the fact that I think there's some people with their mouths open right now going, this is the number one cause of premature death in women. What? So I'm going to start with that.
I agree. I think most people, women especially, are worried about breast cancer or cancer risk. We do a lot of discussion around that in clinic, but heart disease, as you just said, is the number one killer. This is what we should be discussing and making sure we understand this is not just a disease of men.
Rosie O'Donnell, that was my wake-up call. A female celebrity had to have a heart attack for me to go, what? Wait a minute. This is something that I should be thinking about.
Did you ever think you'd become such a prominent voice for heart health and just taking care of yourself? Did you ever?
No, because I thought I would die of breast cancer because my mother died of breast cancer when I was 10, and then the second mother, a public school teacher who took care of me and mothered me, she died of breast cancer when I was 40. And so I was positive it was going to be breast cancer. So remember on my show, I was like, get your mammogram. 30,000 women die of breast cancer every year. Very serious, very sad. But 300,000 women die every year of heart disease. It's the number one killer of women. All cancers combined don't equal the amount of women who die of heart disease every year. So I almost died. I don't want you to die. Watch it, will you?
This is killing a lot of women. And now it's over a decade later. The awareness still just isn't there. And I think part of the problem is, as women, we lead busy lives. We've got lots going on. There are signs that we need to be aware of where our bodies are telling us something more is going on. So first of all, how do we tap into ourselves enough that we can recognize when there's something going on?
Yeah, and I think that's important because in women, both heart disease and heart attack can present a little bit differently than men. And most people are aware if they get crushing chest pain and they can't breathe, they'll call 911. They see that as urgent. But in women, because we are different than men, especially our cardiovascular system, our symptoms can be much more vague. So our heart attack might present as back pain, neck pain. It might be fatigue that's extreme, which unfortunately, as you say, women might think is something else.
Yeah.
They could have a growing shortness of breath, maybe on their walks. They're not able to go as far. They're thinking that they're a little bit out of shape, and this might be a sign of heart disease. And certainly things like indigestion or symptoms more that they might attribute to being from their stomach could actually be heart disease or heart attack. So in women, certainly any type of chest pain needs to be looked into, and they should seek medical attention. Shortness of breath, it's different, extreme fatigue, nausea, these things need to be looked at and reviewed from a cardiac viewpoint as well.
Not just brushed under a carpet, right? I think that that's what we do so often is when we're not feeling the greatest in any means, we're just like, oh, we've always in our heads kind of put excuses to it. Don't wait. It can potentially be too late.
Yeah, that's exactly. And it is a conversation that should start much before, because often there may be some things that you can pick up prior to having a heart attack that would raise the warning bell that you're at risk of having heart disease and heart attack. And certainly some of this can happen very early in life. Often we don't think about pregnancy as a time to think about our heart health, but many women who have hypertension in pregnancy or have abnormal blood sugars in pregnancy, they're at risk of those things later in life. And those are major risk factors that contribute to heart disease. So they should be followed more carefully. Women who go into early menopause, this is a warning sign that we should really make sure that we're keeping your heart safe, because estrogen is heart protective. And for those women that might experience early menopause, they're at more risk. And then certainly having the conversation with your family. Does your mom have high blood pressure? Does your dad? Is there high cholesterol that runs in the family? If anyone's had a heart attack, when did that occur? And there's screening that women should be undertaking to try to stratify their risk.
It is important to go in and see your doctor, because I think it's those conversations with doctors like yourself that can help us get ahead of some of these things that could really affect us and potentially take our lives.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think the landscape of heart health has changed. We know we can have a major impact. We really can reduce the risk of heart attack, and it is all about early prevention. And have a blood pressure check to check your blood sugars. This is an easy lab test. And then to check your cholesterol. Often we talk about it as the ABCs. Going in to get your A1C checked, which is your blood sugar, B is your blood pressure, and C is your cholesterol. Those three things, if you know that you're within normal for those, that can be very reassuring. And if you're not in normal, the best thing is there's lots of lifestyle things you can do to prevent heart disease. And if you're not engaging in those, any time is a great time to just start, right? And the earlier, the better.
What are some of those lifestyle changes that we can do on a regular basis to try to ensure that we've done everything that we can? Our heart, it's kind of an important organ.
It is, you're right. And these are behaviors that need to have priority. Like, as you said earlier, women are busy. We put everyone else first and we're last. But there are things that every woman should be making time for that are very, very important. a few lifestyle things. Certainly, we have a bit more sedentary lifestyle. We tend to work seated, and exercise is a hard thing to engage in. And so often that gets left for last. Any time and any amount of activity we know actually makes a difference. You look at the guidelines in Canada, we've recommended 150 minutes of moderate, vigorous activity per week, but anything is beneficial, right? There's studies that look at 10 minutes a day. And so I often will say to my patients, when you're out with the kids at the park, you can be walking with them, you can be playing, kicking that soccer ball with them. And that all counts as movement, and it all counts towards your physical activity. Just thinking about it maybe as how do I slip in a little bit extra every day, for some women is less daunting.
I really like the fact that you said even 10 minutes a day. A few episodes back, we were talking about rebounding. That's just a little trampoline that you can have in your house. It is amazing how it gets the heart rate up. And it's actually quite fun. It is just 10 minutes. And it's incredible how all these little things can add up and make a huge difference in our overall health.
Yeah, they really do. And I think enjoying it is important. Stress can add to heart disease. So doing something you enjoy, often that can be stress relieving, not just exercise itself, finding something that's your thing. If you're not a runner, don't try and make that your goal. Pick something you do like. There's lots of ways to move our body and lots of ways to keep our heart healthy. A big lifestyle contributor to heart disease would be smoking. So if you are a smoker, you need to hopefully quit completely.
And all of these things that you speak to are things that overall will give us a healthier life. These are all things that we should be doing for so many things, not just for our heart, but for our brains and for our immune system and just everything. These are the things that we need to do: eat well, exercise, everything within moderation.
I agree 100%. We do. We need to prioritize it, right?
Just having this conversation. I mean, when I look at how things have changed dramatically for women because the conversation around menopause was tabled more than it ever has been. Same with breast cancer. Like, we talk about it, we get it out there. And now I think, like everything else, heart disease needs to be talked about, and the importance of women knowing that this is something that may affect them, that women do have heart attacks, and that you need to know how to recognize it. So I so appreciate bringing the attention to it and getting your perspective.
And I agree. I think it's a conversation that's good to have between friends because, 2 out of 3 women will have risk factors for heart disease. So it's very likely that that person you're chatting with may have risk factors and might draw your attention to something you're experiencing that would prompt you to go see your family physician, or not to ignore, as we were talking about. Education and awareness is the first step, and I'm happy that we get a chance to chat about it. As we said, I think the important thing is, if you know something's different, don't be afraid to engage with a healthcare professional, because we've got lots of screening tools. And heart health, it's not just that we have to monitor the risk factors for it, but we actually have ways of looking directly at the heart and pending your risk factors. So we really don't want to dismiss any symptoms that could be related to cardiovascular health. And as we said, in women, because we tend to have those smaller vessels affected, they can be a little bit more subtle. It's that chest discomfort that feels different, that's not going away. You don't want to sit on that.
Everyone, we all need to be aware of our heart health. Men also, need to pay attention to the signs of heart attacks, because it's not always necessarily a sudden attack. It can happen over a few days.
I would like to just emphasize that we do want to be aggressive with our treatments for ourselves, and, certainly the discussion with women from a family physician standpoint, because we often are not treated as aggressively as men with medications, or maybe not taken quite as serious. And so I think we do want to make sure that we're clear what our risks are, having your lab work and having your physical exam updated, knowing your family history, having an awareness of some of those early life changes that might put you at risk later on. So knowing your risks, I think, is very important. And then you can have that conversation of, is this just a lifestyle?
It's the things that you can do in your daily life to live a healthier lifestyle by adding in exercise, eating well, socializing, getting outdoors, all those things that are good for us.
And I really hope that that's the take-home message. That's such a nice place to end, because it's not a discussion of gloom and doom. It's a discussion of this is a preventable diagnosis. And in the vast majority of women, we can do much better to prevent ending up having that heart attack as your endpoint or stroke. So, I hope anyone listening to this podcast has a better idea of what to watch for, but also a bit of almost enthusiasm that what they're doing from a lifestyle standpoint is really going to impact their heart health. And this is not something, even though it is the top killer of women, something that hopefully we can prevent in many more women down the road.
Thank you so much for your time. Just the way you approach these topics and make it make sense to us. And I think that's so important too, right? Getting us to understand it. And I'm sure our paths will cross again. I'll have many other topics I can throw at you down the road.
Thanks so much. It's always very enjoyable.
Remember the beats, okay?
Exhausted. Pale, puke. Say what? Say hot.
Exhausted. Pain, pale, puke. And heart disease doesn't care what color you are. It doesn't care. It will eat you no matter what.
You can find Dr. Beinert at harrisonhealthcare.ca. For a list of signs and symptoms and other helpful tips, head to everythinglifestyle.ca.
Health Tag.
We think of meditation as a way to calm the mind, to reduce stress and anxiety. But for some, it can actually do the opposite. Producer Karen Habashi is one of those people. So she met up with Dr. Mina Guirguis, a clinical psychologist helping patients with mental health issues. Here's their conversation.
Why can't some people with anxiety go for meditation sessions or breathing exercise? It actually makes them anxious. I'm one of them. I tried it and it was terrible.
Sure. I think there's limited research out there that kind of explores why some people, when they do meditation or deep breathing or any of these anxiety reducing exercises, why it actually triggers them. And what I found out is because you are so in tuned and highlighted, you're sitting with yourself and you're really kind of in tune to your body, that magnifies the anxiety itself. So when you're actually having a thought, because you're trying to really kind of get away from everything and reduce the stimuli coming in. Mm-hmm. So when you do have a thought and you're not able to get rid of it, and that thought becomes magnified because there is no stimuli in your environment. You're cutting yourself off. Sometimes because they're cutting everything off and they're really hyper-focused on getting rid of the anxiety, that when you have a thought, you start thinking about it and that thought leads to more anxiety. The assumption has always been, if you're anxious, do deep breathing, do meditation, and do that. There is a study, I think in 2019, that kind of explored that, but we need more studies to explore why certain individuals, when they're doing the breathing exercises and the meditation and mindfulness to reduce anxiety, it has the opposite effect.
I talked to so many of my friends about this issue, and I found that so many people were telling me, oh my God, I'm the same, and I don't know why. I tried it so many times. I tried different techniques, but every time I do it, I start getting sweating, I start breathing heavily. I can't do it.
Any of these techniques cannot be universally applied to everyone, right? Because people are different. People have different experiences. People have different chemistry of their brain. People have different ways of reducing their anxiety and dealing with their own issues that come up. And I encourage everyone to just kind of find out their own, what works for them.
Yeah, it's not one size fits all.
Sure. So self-help books is a start, specifically the Mind Over Mood. There's 2 editions, first edition or second edition. Both of them are very helpful. And they can read the book and it will give them understanding of the relationship between the thoughts, the feelings, and the behavior, give them understanding. It will actually work, get them to do exercises in the back of the book. So it's a workbook. So that's one thing. For severe forms of anxiety, they might benefit from seeing a medical professional, meaning a physician or a nurse practitioner, to explore if medication is going to be helpful. Because in reality, sometimes the trauma is so severe that talk therapy by itself is not enough, and talk therapy plus medication is the most helpful for that patient. So self-reading books, going to a therapist, joining a group. There's a lot of groups that explore that, whether with your insurance. Sometimes they offer groups for people to attend, listening to podcasts like that. But the most important thing is try to not diagnose yourself with something. You can have the thought, and you can say, I wonder if I have this or that, but don't say, I have this and that, and go with it unless it's confirmed by someone who is a professional. That's why people go and get these degrees, is because they spend many, many hours and years of studying a specific subject to become an expert and efficient in it.
Thank you so much, Mina, for this interesting conversation.
You can follow Dr. Mina Guirguis at Flow Wellness Hub or visit the Emotional Wellness Center for Skin Disorders.com. Coming up later, put down the phone, get off your screens, and find something that calms the mind.
Life Unlocked.
Startling new insight into the addictive power of sugary, salty, and fatty foods. Would you believe doctors have found that cravings for junk food may be as strong as an addiction to heroin or cocaine?
Next time you crave junk food, drink a glass of water. Seriously, why do we crave junk food? Whether it's savory or sweet, millions of us love our favorite, not so good for us foods. Well, it turns out that they're designed to hit our brain's pleasure centers. When we eat things like sugary snacks or drink soda, our brain gets the instant feel-good rush. It's the same reward system that drugs like cocaine tap into, which is why we end up craving these foods even more. The problem is we're focused on the short-term feel-good effect and ignoring the long-term consequences. Research has shown junk food is messing with our gut microbiome, hurting our mental health, causing inflammation, lowering our mood, and ramping up anxiety. Here's where it gets interesting. When we crave junk food, our brain isn't the only thing involved. Our stomach gets in on the action too. It releases ghrelin, a hormone that tells us we're hungry and encourages us to go after those calorie-dense foods. Once we satisfy our craving, dopamine kicks in, making us feel good. And that positive reinforcement keeps us coming back for more. Then top that with serotonin, the happiness hormone. Junk food is full of carbs, and carbs can boost serotonin, giving us a temporary mood lift. Unfortunately, it's just that, temporary. After that high, we usually crash and feel even worse. But it just becomes a vicious cycle that can be really hard to break. Because let's face it, when cravings hit, it's not usually carrots or a bowl of radishes. You're more likely to be thinking about candy, chips, or cake. The good news is you're in control of your choices. You can start by swapping out the processed junk food for whole nutrient-rich foods. And drink more water. Often our brains confuse hunger and thirst, so when you're feeling those cravings, try drinking water first. It might just help you reset and make healthier choices. In the end, it's all about being mindful of what you're putting in your body and making small, healthier swaps. It's not easy, but it's totally doable. Coming up later on Everything Lifestyle, she said, "What? How rude." We talk offensive language with Life Unlimited's Stephanie Staples.
Being real.
It was her father's perseverance while he lived with Parkinson's that was her source of motivation and inspiration to change her life and start an all-natural beauty line called Aerolia. This is Christina's story. This is Being Real.
My name's Christina Louey. I am a mom of 3. I actually used to be in finance, but now a mompreneur or entrepreneur. I founded a local beauty brand called Aerolia Beauty. My husband is from Vancouver and we moved here and decided to raise our kids here. With the first couple winters when I moved here, I was really just feeling so low and kind of just not great, getting sick all the time. And it was actually when I went and got checked for my vitamin D level. my doctor had mentioned to me, my D level was very, very low. That's when I was clued in and went to see a naturopath about the importance of vitamin D for one thing, and that sustaining sufficient level is really important. I always prefer getting our nutrients from food source. But when you start looking into our diets and everything, and especially for us living here above the 49th parallel, we really do need to supplement something as essential as vitamin D, and it's not readily available in our food source. Unless you're eating pounds of salmon and almonds and whatnot. So it really is something that I realized I need to include in my own diet. And then from that created a journey for me to discover, what products are out there. Taking a step back, what is wellness? It is such a big umbrella. It spans mental health, the sense of well-being. And so I thought something like beauty product, it's different for everyone. My father was diagnosed with Parkinson's, but because of Parkinson's, he actually had a lot of medication to take. Those weren't easy for him to administer by himself with the shaky hands as one of the symptoms of Parkinson's. So I thought, well, if there's something that he could use that's not a pill form or some other ways that he can use easier. The journey started with me literally going online and looking at lip balm formulations and then integrating vitamin D in there. Unfortunately, we lost my father due to complications of his Parkinson's a couple years back. I see this as his living legacy. I think of him as I work on this brand and this product. So it's really kind of gives me the energy to push it forward as I kind of go down this entrepreneurial journey. Nature is very powerful. We have everything that we need in order to sustain ourselves. I think in our modern lifestyles, we have really grown away from some of these traditional practices. I hear about grounding and forest bathing and stuff like that. But, actually that's kind of the norm of what human beings used to do. But because we live this crazy kind of really busy lifestyle, we're very separated from that now. So I think it's good that our bodies and our minds are waking up to it. I think when we do have those symptoms, it's really our bodies just telling us to wake up and to kind of be more attuned to what our traditional ways used to be, and grounding ourselves back to basic. At the end of the day, sometimes when it's making decisions that are key and critical, it really still comes down to what's best for our body, to connect and find that sense of wellness and sense of being, taking a deep breath and doing something good for yourself.
Thank you for sharing your story, Christina. The vitamin D lip balm sounds amazing, and Aerelia Beauty pledges 2% of their annual net income to Parkinson's Canada Super Walk, Canada's largest fundraising event for Parkinson's. For more information on Christina's company, you can go to aureliabeauty.com. That's ARALEA beauty.com. And for more information on Parkinson's, check out the article, This is What Causes Parkinson's Disease, at everythinglifestyle.ca.
I'm nice for a living. I'm nice for a living. I'm nice for a living. I'm nice for a living.
Life Unlimited with Stephanie Staples.
I stumbled across this survey from Pew Research that I wasn't even familiar with. It said that 6 in 10 U.S. adults, which equates to about 62%, it's a pretty big number, say that people being too easily offended by what others say is a major problem in the country today. And then they asked another question that reported 47% of people saying that things that are very offensive to others is a major problem. And then that got me thinking, because I was reading a blog by the one and only Stephanie Staples titled Be Hard to Offend and Easy to Impress. And I thought, yes, we do need to talk about this. Hello, Steph.
Hello. So you read my blog, and did you gasp like other people did when you read it?
Yeah, I don't know if you can condense the story to give people the context, but this is where I think sometimes we do things so innocently and have not meant to offend anybody.
Yeah. So I have a colleague who is an emerging speaker. So often he'll send me things that he's received from audience members, like compliments and whatever. And he's like, look at this. And he sent me this one and it was very nice. And I wrote back, like, you're on fire with an exclamation mark. Tried to say, like, I'm proud of you. You're doing good. And he wrote back, no, not again, exclamation mark. And as soon as he did that, I realized this man had been in a 3-person fatal car accident with severe burns to, I forget what, maybe 75% of his body. Like, gosh, he literally was on fire. And I wrote this just, as you said, completely innocently. And as soon as he wrote that back, I was just like, oh my God, what did I do? And then he said, I think it's hilarious. And he said, somebody asked me also, like, if I smoke. And he said, I did once, but they put me out.
It's great. He's got such a good sense of humor. Thank goodness, right?
He took a situation that could have been just horrific and made it okay for me to be human. And I just appreciated that so, so much. And it made me think, wouldn't life be better? And I have read statistics, I can't give you the exact stat, but it said most people that have offended us have no idea that they did.
Yes.
And when I think about the number of people I speak to, oh my gosh, I must have offended an awful lot of people and have no idea. So wouldn't life be better if we could be a little tougher to offend? Because when we're offended, how do we feel then? Like, what kind of emotions start coming up, right? We're like angry and
we think we've been offended, then we get very defensive. And then you're right, that's anger. And it's not, those aren't good emotions in that situation.
And on the other side, if we can be easy to impress, like little tiny things that are like, oh my gosh, like that, there's a hummingbird in my hummingbird feeder and actually see some blue sky amidst all those clouds today. I saw a woman at the dental office and I said, you look like you just stepped off the cover of a magazine. You just look so great. If we could be easier to impress, that makes us happy. We deliver some compliments. We get to feel good. We get to notice. We get to have that awe. So I think those are two really different things. And can we be more purposeful, intentional, and deliberate about it? It's like, I could be offended by that, but, did they mean it? Was it intentional? Sometimes yes, but oftentimes I'm going to say maybe no.
I think to look at the source. If it's somebody that you know, take a look at that and think, would they have really meant it that way? Probably not. And something is still bothering you. Do you then ask the person about it? How do you approach that?
So I am a fan of putting the elephant on the table. And I had a situation like this a couple months ago with a friend. He said something and it really just grated me. And I left it for a little bit. He has no idea, but I knew it's going to affect our friendship, my part of our friendship anyways. So I put the elephant on the table. I said, I need to talk to you about something. I absolutely know this is not the way you meant it, but when you said this, I really felt like blah, blah. And I've never brought that to the table where the person was like, oh yes, I totally was trying to offend you.
Right? I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh at that, but it's good.
Sometimes people are trying to offend you. And at that point, you might say something like, so the first case is my friend who I know wasn't trying to offend me, but it struck me in the heart and it hurt. And I needed him to know that. So when I told him, of course, he was like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean that at all in that way. And poof, it's done. I'm like, I knew that's how that would shake out. Sometimes, likely if somebody you don't know so well, they might be trying to offend you. I might call it like that. Are you trying to offend me by that comment? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that comment, and call them out on it. Maybe it won't fix that situation, but it might make them think twice next time, because sometimes they are trying to offend you.
We're so much written word now, getting a text or an email, you can't read tone, you don't have the expression, you're not seeing the person. So I think we often read so much into a comment as well. Do you give people the benefit of the doubt? And do you assume the best or jump to conclusions? And so I think how we process that and then how we deal with it. So here's the thing, if you're somebody who you just go, okay, they might have been offending me, but I don't think so, so I'm just going to let it go. Is that healthy? If we always let things go and we never get to the root of it, can that be a long-term problem?
I'm no expert in this category, but I'm going to say yes, just based on the fact that anything that continually annoys us, like if that's not just one issue, right? It probably layers and layers upon one thing. And maybe if you're not the type of person to say, hey, that bothered me when you said that. Many people would just be, just let it go. But how can that not compound when that happens many times a month, all sorts of different things that keep annoying you? I honestly don't understand how people cannot speak up for themselves. So I find that tough because I just think, how do you get your needs met if you don't speak up? If you can truly let it go, I don't think they're trying to defend me. I'm probably just making a big deal about this, and you can truly let it go, more power to you. But if it's weighing on you and things keep weighing on you and the same person keeps doing things that are truly offensive to you, how are they supposed to know? Do you think they want to be offending? Like, I would want to know if I was saying something that offended you. I would want to know. And if I could make it better, I would.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Just use logic and common sense. If it's someone that you know and that's a part of your life, then talk to them about it. Say, I don't think you meant to offend me with this at all, but it did because this is how I took it, and talk about it. I had a friend do that with me recently, called me out on something, and I had no clue, as you said at the very top of this conversation, that I had said anything that was offensive. And it was really good for me because it made me go, yeah, sometimes you really need to think. But what I appreciated was the fact she didn't bury it, came to me and talked to me about it. And now I see that from her perspective. So I really appreciated that. And I think that that's a good lesson for all of us. And then I learned something, which I also think is important in life. Constantly still need to learn how to be better people.
I always learn when that sort of thing happens. So first of all, to your friend, kudos for having the courage to say something to you, right? Because it's easier not to say something or to think it's just me or whichever. And kudos to you, to your friendship. I think that she understood it's okay. I can have this conversation. I can have this upfront conversation with Linda. It's a difficult conversation, but our friendship is strong enough to withstand that. And we're going to come out on the other side, okie dokie. And it's going to be fine. And most of us, we're trying to make the world a little bit better, right? We're all human, help each other get better in a kind, loving, gentle way. And if it is somebody, like you said, you've got a relationship, this relationship is important to me, I'm going to invest in trying to help this person and help our relationship get better. Good investment of time and energy. And if it's someone I'm never going to see again, it's like maybe like something's happening in their day is so bad that this is just how they're functioning right now. And maybe that's not who they usually are.
But when, you feel that you've been offended, pause before reacting, to give grace freely and be ready with kind words. And that's all within your blog as well. So people can go there to get more information on it, because it is brilliant. And I think it can help all of us, which you always do, Steph. Before we go, anything else you'd like to say?
Stephanie Staples here, encouraging you to live your life unlimited.
And for more great ways to live a happier life, you can go to stephaniestaples.ca. And if you're looking for a great motivational speaker, the information's there as well. Thanks again, Steph.
Mindfulness Moment.
Screens are a big part of daily life, but too much screen time can harm your health, from eye strain to poor sleep. Reducing screen time can improve overall well-being. So look to give up some of that time in exchange for something else. For what that could be, we turn to Claire Maisonneuve, a registered clinical counselor with Alpine Counseling Clinic in Vancouver.
How about we exchange 15 minutes of time on Instagram and TikTok? 15 minutes. Because when you're doing that and surfing the net, you are not putting anything helpful into your mind. So how about exchanging 15 minutes in the morning and the evening, rather than scrolling on the phone, to do something that not only is going to benefit you in that moment, but will benefit you over the next few days. Because it's like x-rays, it's cumulative, it stays in your system. Whereas just going on the phone and looking at Instagram, what does that really do? What we put in our minds is our responsibility. So what I fill my mind with is entirely my responsibility and is a choice. Particularly what I fill my mind with last thing at night and first thing in the morning. Because what I fill my mind with in the last hour of my evening is going to totally affect my sleep and my subconscious mind. That's why it's a really important time to meditate just before you go to sleep. don't look at the news and then think you're going to fall asleep and have a peaceful sleep. That was never going to happen. And then the first thing in the morning, the mind is still in that REM sleep a little bit, those very open subconscious places. So first thing in the morning, you want to be able to think about, what's my day going to be like? What do I plan for the day? What's going on inside of me? That's a perfect time to be mindful and to look at, how do I feel first thing in the morning? Because there's a lot of stuff that goes on at night in our subconscious mind. So first thing in the morning and last thing at night are really important times to feed your mind. Of course, the rest of the day also. But what I put in my mind is a choice, and that's going to affect my ability to be mindful. It's hard to be mindful if I'm filling my mind with useless stuff. Life is precious, and we need to think about how we use our time. And the reason we need to do that is because everybody says to me, I want to be happier. I just want to be happy. That's all I want. What do I need to do? Well, what I'm going to tell you to do, you're not going to do. If you want to be happier, you have to have practices that are going to make you happy. So if you want to be happy, you need to create happy habits. Mindfulness is one of those. Meditation is one of them. Those are habits that will lead you to true happiness.
Thanks, Claire. Next time, who truly is the mindful one? You can find Claire at anxietyandstressrelief.com. And for some great meditation videos, head to everythinglifestyle.ca for Meditation with Amanda. Life is challenging, and choosing wellness in our daily lives may seem like adding to the already long to-do list. But together, we can make it easier. Join us on the next Everything Lifestyle as we talk about sexual health, why it's important for a better life. I'm Linda Freeman. Let's connect again soon as together we take the journey of Everything Lifestyle. You've been listening to Everything Lifestyle, an initiative powered by Pattison Media, designed to inspire and motivate a healthy life. For more information on this program, go to everythinglifestyle.ca.
Another Everything Podcast production. Visit everythingpodcast.com, a division of Pattison Media. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast.